Hello fashion lovers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Betty. In today's video, I'll be taking you through the drafting of the back pattern of our trouser. If you're yet to watch the front pattern, I'll be linking that in the description box so you can go ahead and watch that because we'll be making use of the front pattern to draft the back pattern. Now let's get right into the video. When we were cutting through the pattern, we trimmed off this. So this is me just trying to tape that down. Okay, we are not supposed to cut from the waistline yet because we'll be using that to draft the back. We'll be cutting from the start line instead. All right, now that you have cut that down, the next thing you're to do is to just extend each of your dart leg and also the waistline. You just make it very visible so that when we want to cut it again, we'll know the line that we are following. Now that is done, the next thing we have to do is to mark out 3 inches on the center back line and 4 inches on the top line. Now that you have ruled that line, the next thing we have to do is to fold in our fitted line. Remember I told you that we are working with the fitted line and not the free pant line, alright? So you can go ahead and cut this off if you know you're not working with the free pant line, but I want to make use of it later on. That was why I did not cut it off. So this is me just trying to fold it inward before I place it on the back pattern. We'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side of that line. Okay, so we are basically folding it in just like we did before. Now that is done, the next thing we have to do is to lay our front pattern on our back pattern paper. All right, so we're placing our waistline and the crotch extension line on that point like so, making sure that the crotch extension point is meeting the center back line and the waistline is connecting on the start line. You go ahead and secure that down using your masking tape. Okay, now that we have successfully done that, the next thing we have to do is to extend our lines. We'll start from extending the crotch line, the hip line. We also extend the knee line, the extended line, our ankle. Remember that we fold in our front hem, so we will just go over to the hemline and mark out 2 inches from the ankle to get our hem. Once we mark that down, we'll just connect that using a straight ruler. Next, we'll go over with our scissors to cut from the hemline like so. After cutting through the hemline, we'll go over to the ankle line and fold it like this. So I'm trying to make a crease line, folding the hemline inward like so. Now that we have done that, let's focus on the drafting process. So you come over to the front trouser pattern, this line here. We're going to be measuring from here to the middle of our dart line. So whatever you get, you're going to divide it by 2 and mark that point down like so, okay? The next thing we have to do is to extend that point upward. So how do we do that? Go over to the crotch extension line. Whatever measurement you get from here to here, you take in that measurement and add it to the point that we marked earlier. For my case, it's 2.5, so I just marked that down. The next thing is to extend that line like so. Now that we have done that, the next thing we are going to do is to come over the crotch extension line for the front, this point here, okay? We are going to extend that line like so. We are going to be making use of 2 inches. You can make use of 2.5, but maximum 2 inches, 2.5. You should not exceed that. Once I've marked that down, the next thing I'm going to do on that point there, I'll be going down by half of an inches, all right? I'm going to do that and connect that using my straight ruler. That line is for the back crotch extension, alright? Mark out the 2 inches that you got earlier on that point like so. On this point here, we'll be placing our tape in this form like so, alright? Once we place our tape like this, we're making use of 2 inches to mark that down. Now we have 3 points, alright? We'll be marking this as point A, point B, and point C. Alright, so we'll be connecting point A, B, and C using our straight ruler and also our curve ruler. For us to do that, we'll flip our front pattern this way, and first we'll be connecting from this point to this point like so, and next we'll be connecting from this point here to this point, but we have to extend the curve like this, and then using our straight ruler we'll connect it to the point A like so. This gives us our back crush curve. The next thing we should take note of is this line. Alright, you see this line here, we are going to find a way to make sure that it is transferred to the back pattern. Alright, like this. I'm just trying to make my marker make it visible, so we'll be straightening that line like this. We'll be coming back to this line, so let's go over to transfer our waist measurement first. Alright, so on the waistline, this is how we are going to do it. Whatever measurements we have on the front pattern waist, including the darts, we are going to mark that down on the back waistline. So this is how you're going to mark the back. We'll be placing it in a diagonal form like this. We're not placing it straight, we have to place it to meet the start line, alright, or we can call it the waistline. So we're going to use our ruler to connect the points like this. Now that we have done that, the next thing is to flip our pattern open so that we can be able to impute our hip measurements. Okay, so we are going to label that hip and crotch line. Now that we have gotten that, remember this line here, we got it from the front pattern. We are going to make use of that line. We'll be marking our hip circumference divided by 4. We'll be doing that on the crotch line and not the hip line. I explained this during the first tutorial. This helps to avoid us from having any bulging on the hips, most especially when you have hip dip. This just helps you to lay your pattern flat. Next thing is to flip our pattern like so. On the knee line, we'll mark 0.5 inches. So we're making use of 0.5 inches on the knee line, on the extended line. The reason why we are imputing this measurement is not seam allowance, neither is it ease allowance, but this measurement helps to keep your seam in place. Alright, then we'll connect that using our straight ruler like so. We'll do the same thing for the other side. After which we are going to make use of our curve ruler to connect from the knee line to the crotch line. Remember, the crotch line, not the hip line. Okay, once we have done that, we'll just go over and blend that point to prevent any sharp edge. Alright, do the same thing for the back crotch extension, connecting from that point to the knee line. Alright, the reason why I had to place my pattern this way, I'm trying to prevent it from having a funny edge. That was why I had to blend it like this. Now that it's done, you go over to the waistline and impute the darts measurement. So whatever we have from the center front to the darts, middle of the darts, we're going to take that measurement and mark it at the back pattern. We're going to open up our pattern like this, and then on this line we're going to mark that at several points. Now that is done, we use our straight ruler to connect that line. Next, we are going to impute our dart length. So our dart length for the back pattern is 5.5 inches, so connect that. Then on that dart line, we are going to go half inches on both sides, just like as we did for the front. We'll connect that like so. To prevent our dart from having shortage, alright, we'll be folding in our darts from one edge of that dart line like so, making a crease line and closing that up. We'll go over and use our ruler to connect that. So once you do this, if there is no shortage, you can leave it the way it is, but if there is shortage, you will just mark that down. On the center back line, we'll be going out by 1 inches, and then we'll mark that point. Then towards the hip line, we'll go out by 0.75 inches and we'll mark that down. Using our curve ruler, we are going to connect that point like so, making sure that you're connecting it to the back crotch line like so. You can go ahead and use a faint pen at first. Once you have gotten all of those points, you can use your marker to connect it. So I will just go ahead and make that line visible using my marker. Note that this line that we are extending serve as the allowance we'll be needing for the back pattern. So when we are drafting or when we are cutting our fabric, we will not be adding extra allowance on this back rush line. Okay, so now that is done, the next thing we need to focus on is the band. So we're marking out 2 inches to get our band length. All right, we'll mark that all round like so, and we're going to use our curve ruler to connect each of that point. We'll be doing the same thing for the front pattern. We'll mark out 2 inches on the dart line, but before that we are going to trim off our start line that we added earlier to have only our waistline. Now we are going to go over to the waistline and mark 2 inches like so. This will also serve as our band height. All right, we're going to connect that like this using our curve ruler. You can go ahead and close in the dart before connecting it to prevent any form of shortage when we fix our band back to our pattern. We can now separate the front pattern from the back pattern so that we can clearly work on the back pattern properly. So we'll be marking out our seam allowance on both sides. So the seam allowance we'll be making use of is 0.5 inches. And on the other side, we'll make use of 1/4 inch to 1 inch. So you can make use of 0.5, you can make use of 0.3 to 1 inches maximum. When we cut through the band, we'll be adding our 0.5 inches to join each of them together, all right, to connect the band and also the trouser. So remember, this is for the fitted pants, okay? Now, if you want to make use of a free pant, just like as we did for the front, we'll just go over on the knee line and mark our allowances that we added for the front. So the allowance we made use of for the front was 0.75 inches. We're just going to mark that down on the knee line. We're also going to mark that down on the ankle line and extended line. Okay, now that we have done that, we'll just basically go ahead to use our straight ruler to connect each of those points like so. Remember to make use of your curve ruler for this point here, all right, and blend it in. Do the same thing for the other side. So this line here is for our free pants, okay? Be it free pants or fitted pants, the same allowance will be adding. We'll be doing it on both the front pattern and also the back pattern. Center back line, we will not be adding any allowance, all right? But on the side seam, we'll be adding 0.5 inches allowance. Okay, now we can go ahead to cut through our lines. So we are cutting through the free pants line because I told you I'll be making use of it, but not on this tutorial. In my next tutorial, I'll be showing you how to go about with the trouser band, making it a single band instead of 4 pieces band. If you find this video helpful, you can go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and in my next tutorial I'll be taking you through the process of drafting the trouser band. Thanks for watching. See you in my next tutorial, guys.